Well, Brad and I are here together again. We're friends, and I'm excited to hear just before we started recording that Hammond Hill is really coming along. It's got significant bookings, two new ones a day. The jupes are popular. The yurts are going okay. There's a wedding today in one of the yurts, which is fantastic, and I guess Aaron is the officiant there. And the cool thing that Brad talked about just before we started recording this is that Hammond Hill is now generating sufficient cash flow to cover itself, which is really great. I mean, and we talked about the hockey stick curve. Revenues take a long time to build, and then they you don't seem to be getting anywhere, but you kind of are, and then you realize that they're on that upward trend, and that's where you're at now. So that's exciting. The pond, the sandy soil in the pond is almost done. Brad's going to take a picture for me, and then he told me just a few minutes ago that they're thinking about doing a second one, which is really cool.
Yeah,
I can't wait. Just while we're talking Hammond Hill for another minute, we've talked about this ad nauseum, so I do tend to repeat myself, but there's usually a point to it. Sometimes there's not, but usually there is. And we've talked about it before. If you opened up part of Hammond Hill for tiny house town, I think you would get overwhelmed by demand. And we've talked about it, of course, for small living company product, so that I could buy a small living company, beautiful cabin. I could put it on your site for 21 years less a day, pay you some land rent. And that would be my cottage. It would be a very inexpensive cottage when you think about it. I mean, most people who buy cottages today are paying $600,000 or $700,000 for them in the Ottawa Rockland area. And that's quite a bit of money, really. And of course, some are paying $2 or $3 million, on the big Rito, and maybe even more now. So I can't keep up with the prices. But I'm very plugged into the tiny house movement. You know that, right?
Yeah.
And I get an overwhelming number of people who reach out to me when I put out something on my blog that's about tiny house, whatever it might be. Tiny houses are banned. I'll get a few thousand readers, as opposed to normally I get a few hundred, right? So there's a lot of interest, and so I don't know if you'd ever consider for Hammond Hill, but maybe it's separate from the rest of it. But if you had a place that where it was legal for people to come with their own tiny houses and park there, and pay you land rent, I think you would be very successful.
Yeah, well, we're in the process of, we are going to do that, Bruce, and you played a huge role in that thought process. We are in the process now of severing the land from the golf course. So the 62 acres will be on its own, which makes the land leasing option a lot more,
way better,
less messy. Yeah, a lot better. So as soon as that severance is done, we've earmarked a couple acres for that tiny home village, and we're thinking we'll do about 24 of them. So yeah, we'll have to have a separate conversation around that whole thing, but absolutely, we're going to be doing it. The SLC sales center is now open. We're getting people interested in buying tiny homes, so things are moving.
It's fantastic because if you open up those 24 sites, I mean, this is just something I do because I'm committed to affordable housing. And as you know, at the barn dominium, I think I showed you, I rolled on a humongous tiny home, only in quote marks, right?
Yeah.
I showed you that picture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you know, the city wouldn't give me permission without doing a site plan, $121,000 in studies and fees to build a 542 square foot bunkie, which is
makes total sense.
It is stupid. So we rolled a $55,000 tiny home. It's 55 feet long onto the property, and we've got a lovely couple in there now. They don't pay very much, and it's truly affordable housing. But we had to do it kind of as a parking lease, as opposed to something that maybe is actually, here you could park your tiny home here, and it's only a parking space, but they do live in it, and it's hooked up to our septic system and our well and our electrical system, and they pay for that too. But that's just one couple, very nice couple. George and Brett live there. They're super, super nice. And again, thinking about it from a security point of view, we've talked about this before too. You've got the barn dominium with all those cool workshops. And then you've got somebody living on site. They take a proprietary interest in it. You know, it's like their own place. And so we have zero, knock on wood here, vandalism or graffiti or anything like that. And as I've said to you before, and I said it to George and Brad, if I do ever run into some issues with Ottawa bylaw, I'll spend $121,000 in legal fees defending myself. I will.
Yeah.
I am so mad.
Yeah.
You know, I'll take this to the Supreme Court of Canada. I'm 70 now. That'll take 7 to 12 years. So, you know, basically the rest of my life, I guess. I said, I will not. I mean, if they fine me $500 or whatever, because somebody complained, I won't pay it. I'll appeal it, and I'll take it to the Supreme Court of Canada, and I'll spend the $121,000 in legal fees. I just will.
Yep. No, it's worth it.
Super pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be super pissed. But if you could do it legally, oh my God, what do you? I mean, just if I'm not saying you do this, but if somebody were to bring their own tiny home, what would, I'm just saying, if you did decide to do that, what would you charge a month for parking on your site? You know, making sure that they have access to power, access to you know, a septic system, and internet.
Yeah, well, we'd have to run through the numbers, but I'm just looking at some comparables, you know, I'm seeing anywhere from 500 a month to 1,500 a month, depending on the services that are available. The one thing that is a challenge at the Hill is we don't have septic or well yet, but if we do the village, we will definitely do that. We'll set up its own solar array and all that kind of stuff. So we will be able to offer that to tenants.
That's fantastic. So out in BC, BC, British Columbia is, I mean, it's stupidly expensive in Ottawa, Rockland now, but in British Columbia, it's off the charts. It's just crazy. So I actually have a client in BC who has his own RV, his own tiny home, and he pays $1,500 a month to park it. But he does have access to power. He has to provide his own internet. So he has power, water, and septic. That's it. There are no other services, and he pays $1,500 a month to park his own vehicle there. So I think if they were to buy a small living company, tiny home, cabin, whatever, from you, you might charge them a little less than somebody who brings in his own or her own. And in fact, you may not even allow them. But there are a hell of a lot of people right now in the region who own tiny homes, and they're getting kicked out all the time.
Yeah,
it's awful, and I've got a whole bunch of them. So anyway, think about it, and when you're ready to do something, let me know, because I'm really plugged in there. Okay, enough of that. So what we're going to do next is, Brad asked me a really great question. What do companies a little bigger than Blair Capital do that's different than what Blair Capital does? Right, basically. Yeah, are there some things that you can learn? And the very first one that I mentioned, I did say it by email, but I'm going to repeat it. Is most of these companies that once they get to a certain size, develop their own separate property management company. Okay, I did send you, and I'll just share my screen here. I did send you this thing that I wrote. It's 24 pages long, so I'm sorry it's so long, but proper property management, portfolio management. And I prefer the term now, portfolio management, as opposed to property management. Property management is a bad term. Most property managers, as you know, are terrible. They think of their tenants as the enemy. When a tenant calls, they're cursing, at least under their breath. They're cursing, oh, another darn call from a tenant that I hate, and they don't make any money. So those two things are linked, because if you're making lots of money as a property manager, you'll have more patience for people, right? Yep. But usually they're not making very much money. So one of the things that you should at least consider for Blair Capital, and we've talked about it before, setting up a separate property management company. And then, you know, again, most people think when you set up a property management company, you charge 5, 6, 7, 8% of the revenues for managing the property, and that's the end of it. And if you do that, you won't have enough money to run it, and it will suck, right? And you will get tired of running it, and the people who are working in it will get tired of running it, and it'll fail. And most people are in and out of the property management business under 2 years. Okay, so one of the things I teach, and I'll go through it as quickly as I can so we don't bog down, is go at whether it's you're managing your own property or you're managing property for a third party, which is again something you have to think, do you want to manage other people's properties? But I would recommend that, yes, because you can scale them. Is you ask for 8% of gross rents a month, whether it's commercial or residential, doesn't matter. So 8% plus HST. And then you're an expert in Airbnb. If you put it on Airbnb or Vrbo, vacation rental by owner, you might get up to 25% of revenues, and certainly that does help as well. And maybe you might encourage some of your users, some of your clients, or for yourself, and you're already doing it, that maybe it's a little bit less for medium-term rentals and a little bit more for short-term rentals, right? So that's a possibility. The next thing is that proper property management means you should charge a half a month to a month's rent for each year of lease term. So let's say I was a property manager working for you, Brad, and I bring somebody in to rent, one of Blair Capital's units, and it's a 2-year lease. Then you might get, you might say the property management company, even though you're paying it from yourself to yourself, you still pay it, right? And you might get a half a month's rent per year lease. So if I brought a 2-year lease, it's a 1 month's rent plus HST for property manager and the property management company. And if it's an outside broker, if a realtor's involved, he or she gets the same amount, right? So a half a month's lease per year of lease term. So if again, as a realtor, if I brought your company a tenant, you'd give me a 1 month rent for a 2-year lease. And we try and do 2-year leases now. It's not always possible, but we try and do 2-year leases because it just reduces your workload.
Yeah.
Right? All right. And then the other thing that people forget is every time you do provide some kind of a service, some older clients might want a meal service from you. You might want cleaning done, even though it's not Airbnb, they might want a cleaner because a lot of elders just are out of gas. And they want some cleaning. And every bill that every service that you provide, you have to have an admin fee on it because somebody has to friggin' organize that. And so typically it's 15%. And if you have a renovation that you're doing, if somebody needs a new bathroom and it's a $10,000 expense, you should charge, the property management company should charge 15% for managing that project. All right. So it's really important. And then if you have third-party clients, so if I was a client and you were managing one of my properties and you put in a new bathroom or you paid some bills on my behalf, again, somebody has to manage that. Somebody actually has to write the check or send the e-transfer, whatever it is, 15% on that. Okay. If you have tech or multimedia packages, that should be a profit center for the property management company. And as you know, I like percentage rents. And so if you have some of these gigaplexes, which you are now close to completing, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, you can get a percentage of your tenants sublet, and that's a percentage rent. And I think you should. So it opens up all kinds of possibilities. If you do take on third-party clients, one of the things, again, the larger companies are doing is they're sending at least one of their property managers to school to get his or her real estate license. Okay, like Colonnade Bridgeport is a big commercial property management company or portfolio management company, and I think every one of their salespeople and their leasing people, I think all of them have their real estate license. So again, if I'm an outside broker and I come to you and I say, I've got somebody for your yoga studio and you're going to pay me a commission, you can then share, your property management company or portfolio management company can share that commission. All right. And it takes away any cloud over trading, because sometimes you get accused of trading real estate without being licensed. If you have at least one person with his or her license, that will help you.
Okay. In my opinion.
All right. Something else that people don't really understand is there's also sponsorship opportunities. Like if that property on Laurier where your wife has her yoga studio, that building should have a name. And that name could be just something historic and associated with, but it could also be a sponsor. You know, one of the tenants, for example, might say, "Hey, I'd like it to be called the Firestone Building," right?
Yeah.
And I'll pay a little bit for that signage. Okay. And then if you have third-party clients, or even if you're acting on your own and you're buying, another property, you can get part of the commission. Why not? Right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Right now, I don't think you're getting that.
No.
But if you or Aaron or I think your cousin still works for you.
Yep.
If he, I think we talked about that before, but I don't remember. If he had his real estate license, you could put it through him and he could get half the commission.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, so that's what people do. And if you have a licensed person, then you can get fees from your mortgage brokers. Think about all the friggin' fees you pay.
Yeah.
When you do financing, okay? And then there's all kinds of other things. There's enough of that. So there you go. And if you have third-party clients, you can also coach them how to animate their properties, how to increase their ROI, how to buy more properties, how to refinance. And you can charge coaching fees too, right? So if somebody has his or her license, they can also start coaching themselves, your third-party clients. All right. So that's enough of that. Now, I just wanted to, before we get off the subject, so I just summarized just before we started, okay, what you might consider as the next step for Blair Capital. You might do this soon. Do your own portfolio management company. Take on third-party clients, because there's lots of them out there who hate their property managers. Mm-hmm. You don't have to, you scratch the surface, man, and there's almost every landlord I know who has a property manager hates them. There's a few exceptions. Dan Doré, Dan, of course. He runs a wonderful company, and you couldn't pry loose his clients. They love him. And he's not cheap either, but he's very good. Mm-hmm. And he cares about the tenants. He treats them as customers as opposed to enemies. Yeah. Then you're probably not going to like this next thing, but it's very important when you get to a certain scale to cull your portfolio from time to time. In other words, to look through Blair Capital, if you had 100 doors, and say, okay, this property is probably peaked in value, it's plateauing, its cash flow is okay, but not great, but we could sell that thing, pay some capital gains taxes, that's true, but redeploy it in something that has a higher cap rate and more opportunity for appreciation. All right. Yeah. It's very important. This is something I've learned really new to me. I've told you this before, very new to me in the last couple of years. But I see that from people who have larger portfolios than I do and than you do. And they do that every couple of years. They're looking at their portfolio and say, yeah, and that helps you with your cash engine, right? It helps you with the speed at which cash is turning over. Gives you a little bit more flexibility, and I think it's a good idea. Again, it's a small part of your business, but a very important part of your business. We're mostly buy and hold guys, but occasionally we call the portfolio and sell the mature property.
Yeah, that's something we've discussed at length. I think we're all on board with that. Every 5 or 10, every 5 years, we sell one property, and then every year we can offload at least one property a year to.
I think so. And what I want you to do is I want you to have one guy on staff who's a realtor, so you can, whether you're buying property or you're selling it, you can get half the commissions, right?
Yeah. How much is it to get your realtor license?
So the cost is not very much. I mean, maybe it's $2,000 or $3,000, right? There's there used to be 3 courses that you had to do to become an apprentice salesperson. And then I think it's now 6, they're shorter, but there are more of them. I think it's 6 now. So it might be $3,000. It might be $4,000 for a person to go through that. And then you become an apprentice salesperson, and you have to apprentice somewhere for 2 years. But you could go, your guy could go to Exit Realty, and they'll hold your license. I don't think they charge very much. If you go to Remax or where I work, Royal LePage, they charge a fair bit a month to hold your license. But I think Exit, you just go there and they'll hold it for not very much. But you can figure it out. But Exit's quite big in the east end of Ottawa. You know that, right?
Yep.
And people seem to like Exit, and there's other reasons why they do it. But you might, and there might be other places that are better. I don't know. But you probably hold your license. Somebody would hold the license, like Exit would hold it for you, and you pay something, but not very much. You might pay 5 or 10% of your commission income to Exit, something like that. Royal LePage might be 20%, right? So you might want to go with something a little bit cheaper. So so now you're an apprentice salesperson, and then what I would want the person to do is, in the first 2 years while you're apprenticing, there's some more courses you have to take, but go the next step to get your broker's license. That's what I did, and I did that because I didn't want to be called a real estate salesperson. I got my PhD, now I'm a salesman. Okay, now I wanted a better title, so there's a little bit of poser value there, Brad. But also I wanted the opportunity that if I was ever really unhappy, I could set up my own brokerage. So once you don't have to do that, but it's an extra couple of courses. It's not that hard to do, and you become a broker so that you could have Blair Capital Realty if you wanted to. But you need to have a broker of record, and he or she has to have their broker's license. They can't be a salesperson.
And what are the ongoing costs for a brokerage?
So you would only do that if you're selling one property a year. Leave it with Exit. I mean, give them 5 or 10%. They run the trust account. They do all of the compliance work with RICO, the Real Estate Council for Ontario. That's fine. So if you're going to run your own brokerage, Blair Capital Realty, you're probably going to have 3 or 4 realtors in that group. They're probably going to each do 10 to 20 transactions a year each. So the volume is there. And now it's worthwhile having your own trust fund and doing the compliance work. But if you're just selling 1 or 2 properties or buying 1 or 2 properties a year, just have one guy with his real estate license with Exit, but still have him do his broker's, go and get his broker qualification and designation, so that at some point, especially if you have third-party clients. So if you had, let's say, somebody with a bigger portfolio comes along and says, look, I really like what you guys are doing, and I'd like you to manage my 500 doors. That's really cool, because then somebody who has 500 doors might buy another 500, in which case you would probably establish your own brokerage, or not. It's up to you, but at least you have that opportunity.
Got it.
All right. So that would be the next thing to consider. And then the last point I wanted to make, at least on my notes, was, we've talked about it before, in order to make your life easier and to move the company further, you need to have a roster of investors. And I want to show you, this is one of my clients. I'll show you here. Do you know Avenue 31?
Is that a condo?
No, it does kind of sound like it, but it's AVE31.com. So Avenue 31. I have no idea where they got the name. It's a company that started just a few years ago now, started by Michel Pilon, who's actually an urban planner. That's where his background is. And he's got Ryan Semple working with him, who's kind of his top leasing and sales guy. And they're in a different business than you, but they develop very large industrial buildings. One of my clients is leasing, or trying to lease, about 60,000 square feet of industrial space. And what they did was what Michel did. Michel is a very, very good businessman. He's an urban planner, and usually you don't hear those words in the same sentence, right? Good businessman and urban planner, but he is really, really solid. And Ryan Semple is very, very smart and clever too. I mean, I think the company is fantastic. So what Michel did when he started this company, and I can't remember when they started, but it's fairly recently, Michel, within 1 year, which is actually pretty good, he did a 99-year land lease with the National Capital Commission for this industrial land, heavy industrial land, Hunt Club in the Queensway. So it's in the East End. It's a fantastic location. And you might ask, well, how the hell did Michel find the money to lease a huge site, or and develop these enormous buildings? Okay. And they're just absolutely beautiful buildings. You can sort of see it a little bit better here. These are the, I won't run the YouTube video, it'd take too long. But you know, there's 5 or 6 of these buildings. I think the biggest one is 600,000 or 700,000 square feet. And I think the smallest one is 50,000 square feet. Most of them are 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 600,000. So where did he get the money to buy this site? Well, he didn't. He leased it for 99 years from the NCC. And so you know, I don't know how many acres it is. I can't remember, but it's probably 100 acres. 100 acres today of industrial land could be $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was your age, I could buy industrial land for 100,000 an acre, even 65,000 an acre. But today, in the east end of Ottawa, there's so much demand. You know, it could be easily $1 million. So you know, it's not practical for Michel to give the NCC a check for $100 million. Instead, he gave them a percentage of his revenues once he has revenues. So you remember we talked about how to get free land?
Yep.
So really, to Michel and Ryan and their team, this is free land, because the percentage revenue that they give the NCC for this land lease comes from their tenants.
Mm-hmm.
No tenants, no income, no money for the NCC. All right, it's a really good lease. And the other thing that Michel and Ryan and the team did was these are fabulous buildings, industrial buildings. It's a home run. They developed this property, and their first buildings are under construction now. They developed it at a time when the vacancy rate in industrial is virtually zero. You still there, Brett? I think I might have lost Brad. Hang on, I might pause the video. Just give me a second, guys. Where do I pause it? All right, so we were talking about Avenue 31, and I'm not sure where we dropped the call.
You were talking about how they, were you talking about how they financed it?
Yeah, so it basically was free land, right? You heard me say that?
Yeah.
Okay, because if they don't have any revenues from their tenants, then the percentage rent they pay to the NCC under the land lease is obviously zero. But I was saying, this is a home run, in my opinion, for Michel and his group, because the demand for industrial space is off the charts for a whole lot of reasons, and it's virtually 0% vacancy. And believe it or not, Brad, on these buildings, they're getting $16 per square foot triple net. For the first time in my career, and my career's gone on now for close to 50 years, industrial rents are higher than office rents.
That's crazy.
Is that crazy or what? That has never happened. And because whether it's the pandemic or it's our supply chain problems or whatever the issues are, we need to do more local production. And as you know, I'm a big fan of these small workshops, but larger spaces are needed as well. All right. So their timing couldn't have been any better. Industrial buildings are selling from $200 to $300 a square foot. Downtown office towers are trading for $200 or less.
That's nuts.
That's nuts. And if I gave you a downtown office building and said you got to run it as an office building, I would not be doing you a favor if I gave it to you for free, because the office buildings downtown have 35% vacancy rate. That's the posted rate, and probably another 35% that are being paid for until their leases run out, but there's nobody in them.
Wow.
And when was the last time you were down in the Byward Market in downtown Ottawa?
Years ago.
Well, if you went down there now, it would be very disappointing. Lots of boarded up shops. It's dirty. There's a tremendous number of homeless people. There's a lot of drugs. There's some violence down there. Yeah, our violence is nowhere near the level that you see in cities like Chicago, but still, if you and your family with your 4 kids, I couldn't give you a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom condo downtown. You wouldn't want it.
All right, I'm gonna share my.
All right, so I think we got Brad more or less at home.
Yeah.
So the way they finance this is one, they got free land in the sense that they've got this 99-year land lease, and the other way they finance it is that they're getting they have very significant private investors, private equity investors, REITs, and pension funds that really like this product. All right, and so they're going to use the Colonnade Bridgeport model. They're buying the land. In this case, they're leasing the land. They make an uptick on the land. They make an uptick when the site plan is approved. They make an uptick on. They make a margin on the construction of the buildings. They make they have their own property management group or portfolio management group that are licensed. They make realtor fees along the lines that we talked about when they do the leasing. And then they will sell some of these buildings to the REITs and the private equity guys, et cetera. They'll sell it at ridiculous cap rates, and they'll retain the property management or the portfolio management, and they'll retain some ownership.
Wow.
All right. So if you think about that, that is an incredible model. But it also applies to you, because if you had a place where you're developing 500, rental apartments, there are a hell of a lot of private equity guys, private investor guys, REITs, and pension funds who want to hear from you and say, look, we've got a portfolio of 500. Would you like to participate here? So one of the things that Blair Capital has to do, and you haven't really done it yet, because I know you're a bit shy. I know that about you. And you don't really like to poke your head in. And by the way, I'm no different. Poke your head in and then get it chopped off a few times. But Michelle and Ryan and the team, they're not shy. I said to you that I have a friend who's a very successful realtor, not the sharpest guy you'd ever meet, but very persistent, not embarrassed to get a few no's. And I think you need to develop those kind of relationships, because you're young and you have great potential, but you need to have solid investors. And Avenue 31 has a great group of investors, and you can't build a 600,000 square foot industrial building, which will cost $200 a square foot. So I don't know, 600,000 times 200, what is that? Is that yeah, I mean, it's a big number. It's 120 million bucks, right? And so they have no problem at all raising that money without having to pay 12% and 4% fees, which is kind of on $120 million. It adds up.
Yeah. No, I get it.
All right, so that's kind of where I think and this is not new to you. None of this I don't think is new. We've talked about it before, but I tried to wrap it up in 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, the investor question is always up for discussion with the partners. And it's like, do we bring on investors? And all the investors we have right now are personal relationships. We haven't really gone out into the wild for private equity or REITs or anything like that. But definitely worth thinking about and probably doing. Yeah, well, I think that if you did start a portfolio management company, AKA a property management company, there are some really big companies that want to hear from you, because they're like people like Colonnade Bridgeport and people like Avenue 31, they have their property management figured out. These guys are smart people and they know it's a profit center. But for a lot of companies who don't know the stuff that we just went through, their property management is a shambles, and it's a hellhole, and it's a cost center, not a profit center. So what would be really interesting is if you could find through your portfolio management company, you could find some bigger landlords, probably on the residential side rather than the commercial side, because you guys are mostly residential, I think, that have 500 doors, 100 doors, 1,000 doors, 10,000 doors. That changes everything, and that gets you an introduction into people
you know, who are doing the financing for them, people who are equity investors and people who are buying those kind of portfolios, you know, and then you once you get to know them, you say, hey, you know, we're doing another development over here. Do you want to participate? And you might get a few yeses that way.
Got it.
All right.
And do investors like that typically, are they providing debt or are they equity investors?
Well, if they listen to me, it's a mix of debt and equity. All right. So what I don't want, you know, I talked to you about what Jonathan Westeinde did with Zibby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he did that deal with Dream REIT out of Toronto. It's a huge REIT in Toronto, and you know, it's a $1 or $2 billion project, and probably a couple of billion anyway. And you know, that's hard to finance with $5 million. So Jonathan put in $5 million of equity. Dream put in $5 million of equity, and then Dream loaned like $1 billion, right? So Jonathan ended up, or Windmill ended up with 50% ownership rather than 0.05%.
Yeah.
It's the Mad River thing we've been talking about for a couple of years.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's a mix. I prefer that. But if you are a bit afraid of the debt, no problem. They'll put up all of the equity, and you'll end up, you know, depending on how good a negotiator you should end up with 10% ownership for free.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it's your idea, your project, you're doing all the work, at least 10%. And I would hope a little bit more than that. But Colonnade, Bridgeport, and Avenue 31, they're happy if they have the portfolio management and they have a 10% ownership. Maybe it's a little bit higher than that, but typically not less than 10%. They're okay with that because they make so much money. They're floating on cash.
Well, and they're making money at all levels.
All steps. Yeah. It's incredible. So the lift that they're making when they sell it, I mean, it's millions and millions. I mean, on a $120 million building, it wouldn't surprise me if they make $15 or $20 million profit.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's probably at least 15 million cash in their jeans, plus a 10% ownership, plus they retain the property management.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. Well, right now we're usually between 50 and 70% ownership of each of our projects, player capital to investors. So we're much higher than that, but we also have to put in a lot more money and a lot more work and a lot more effort.
Yeah. Well, Avenue 31 would not put in a friggin' nickel, nor would Colonnade.
Mm.
You understand that their 10% and the retention of the property management would be plus the pocketing $15 million. So their 10% ownership, there wouldn't be a single dollar of their money in it.
Mm.
Right. So I mean, they're just different models, but you could cut the cheesecake any way you want, right?
Yeah.
But you know, that's those are the options. And you know, I think, you know, it would be really helpful for, you know, and the issue with the private guy is, one, most of them don't have unlimited funds. Right. So you get $150,000 or $100,000, very helpful. But they, you know, if you need $120 million, that's harder. Right.
You need deeper pockets. Yeah.
Yeah. So the REITs and the pension funds and the publicly traded companies, the private equity firms, they have that. They have like trillions of dollars under management, trillions. So, and they can't place it $100,000 at a time, right? It's possible. So yeah. They're looking for places to put $120 million at a time, or $500 million at a time, right? And they need people like you, Brad. They can't do it. They can't do what you do.
And in terms of like pitching people like that, they're obviously looking for pro formas and plans, and how in depth?
Oh yeah, so that's a good point, because the other side of the coin is, like, for example, for Avenue 31, if they want to sign a lease, there is a committee that they have to go to for every lease to get it approved. So they don't have the entrepreneurial flexibility that you have or I have. Right. So you do lose something in terms of speed of decision making and autonomy, because you own 10 or maybe 20% of the building. You're free, and you've got the portfolio management, but you have to submit your leases there. You have to submit your budgets there and get them approved, et cetera, et cetera. So there's certainly more red tape, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's more like running a public company, except you're not public. Right, you have a board of directors you have to answer to, and in the Avenue 31, their board of directors very simple, but for their investors, there are committees, funding committees, where they need to get approval.
Got it.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it does impose discipline on the company.
Yeah.
All right. Because, I'm such a wild entrepreneur that there's no real discipline here. I mean, it's just me trying to make a living.
Yeah, I hear that.
And you're probably not much different.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a good thing. So can we go now to talk about 1075 Landry and 1201 Landry? Oh, sorry, Laurier.
Yeah, absolutely.
1075 Landry. No, I'm screwing up. Stop. 1075 Landry was the vacant land.
Yes.
Right? It was it 100 acres?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. What's the status of that? Are you gonna give that a pass?
For now, yes, because the city isn't really playing ball with what we want to do with it. They said yes to the contractor yards, but nothing residential. So we've already talked to the mayor, and we might get some help there. But for now, just been heads down focused on Hammond Hill, 1201 Laurier, and 2132. So we just don't have the mental bandwidth.
I won't ask again. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't, because you asked me to help out a little bit. I didn't want to.
If it's still available for sale in a couple months, we're going to definitely pick that back up and reassess. But for now, it's
yeah. Well, I won't ask you again. All right, sorry. So the other two that we were going to look at are both on Laurier.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where I'm screwing up. All right. I thought we'd go to the yoga studio first, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. So you sent me a spreadsheet. I think I had done one for the other building, but not for your yoga studio. So I'm going to share my screen with you. All right. Here's this building here. I just clipped these from Google Maps. So this is the building here. And I think when you and I and Aaron walked around on it, if I remember correctly, there's the potential for some kind of a small cafe. There's the potential to have some kind of an outdoor patio here and maybe here. The outdoor patio here was compromised, though, because it wasn't structurally sufficient right now for any kind of crowd. Then there's the opportunity for some mini offices down here, if I remember correctly. Yep. And with a health and beauty focus, I think that was the theme.
Yep.
And then the yoga studio was upstairs.
Yep.
And Blair Capital's offices, I think, are actually over here.
Yes, that's where I am now.
All right. And then in the backyard, so you can see this, which I again stole from Google. Here's the building here on Laurier Street, so the main street in Rockland. And there's this humongous backyard, which could be a wedding venue and maybe some urban glamping along the lines of Whispering Springs with maybe a tree house or two.
Yep.
All right. So I wanted to, so the purchase price, and by the way, I think at $770,000, you stole this property. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah,
so
we got a good deal.
You got a good deal. So there's the land transfer tax, a guesstimate of legals and title insurance and disbursements. You did some significant yoga renovations, some landscaping, building renovations. Total cost will be about 1.1 million. And the basement commercial right now, is that 2,000 for all of the offices down there?
Yes.
And how many offices are there down there?
There are 4.
All right, so 4. Okay, and I'm going to just move this 4. Let me move this over a bit. So these are mini offices, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're looking at the god of many offices, right? You know that.
Yes, I do. All
right. So I'm just highlighting stuff here as I go. I ran Terrace Corporate Centers with 162 mini offices. Most of them, about 120 of them downtown in an office tower, and then about another 44 in the West End in Bell's Corners. So I ran the largest mini office complex in Eastern Ontario for many, many years. Great business. So if you're only generating $2,000 a month from 4 mini offices, that's a pretty poor number, in my opinion. I'm not trying to offend anybody here.
Yeah, so the way it's set up right now is the basement commercial is run by Aaron's wife, Candace. So she has her flagship business in there. She pays that flat rent, and then she rents out the other 3 offices. That arrangement is just for now at the moment. We are going to reassess. We have a expensive mortgage debt on the property right now, so we're working with our broker to replace that with something more conventional and a bit higher, given the renovations we've done. And then the yoga, again, is my wife, so that rent, she'll be renting out the other offices in her space to my businesses, but her triple net rent is 5,000 and Candace's is 2,000.
Okay, perfect. But there, what you're missing here is a percentage rent for you. So I'm quite okay with Candace, renting out the other 3 offices that she doesn't use. Why not? That's great. But you should ask for a percentage rent of that.
Okay.
Yeah. What does she charge for the 3 offices that she's renting out?
500 an office.
Okay. Well, that should change. Okay. So here's what I would suggest for Candace. Okay. She would charge $685 for each per office. And these are gross numbers, right? This is not triple net here.
Yeah.
And she would charge another $130, which is a separate thing, which I call a facilities charge. So when I ran the mini office business, it was hilarious. I was competing against Minto, which is a pretty big company, and back then I would rent a downtown furnished office, beautiful, for $650 a month plus a $130 facility charge. And Bradson Center, which was owned by Minto, right across the street from us, would charge $780 a month. So we were charging $650 plus 130, which is $780, and they were charging $780. But when I would overhear people talking, let's say you were at Bradson, I would say, "So Brad, how much are you paying over there?" "Oh, I pay $780." And then you would ask me, "What are you paying over at Terrace Corporate Centers?" You would say $650. Because the facilities charge is something that people just forget about, all right? Mm-hmm. So the facilities charge would cover things like, back in the day, would cover things like reception. I'm not saying she would have that, but receptions are reception.
Yeah, she has a reception area.
Reception, mail handling. Okay, I got to keep moving that stuff over.
About like the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. You're way ahead of me. Mail handling. Oops. Mail handling. Internet.
A common bathroom.
Wi-Fi. What's that?
We have a common bathroom down there.
Cleaning. I don't have to tell you. You have a bathroom and you have to clean it. That's an extra $6,000 a year.
Yep.
I mean, you have to clean it, right? So cleaning, supplies. Power. Somebody's got to pay the friggin' electricity. Somebody's got to pay water, sewer, property taxes, operating costs. Garbage, snow, landscaping. So I actually know how to do this. And so what I would say to you is, if you did that, the total, and just move all this over. The total for a month would be, equal. All right, so she'd get $850 plus HST. Does she know that?
I don't think so.
I love it. Okay, and I don't have to tell you, HST is a profit center for Candace. Do you understand that?
Because she's not paying it.
No. So let's say, okay, let's figure it out. So the HST is equal to this times 13%. So that's the HST, right?
Mhm.
So, and she's going to collect, because there's 3 offices. She's going to collect this much in HST.
Mhm.
But I hope you're charging her HST on her rent.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So she's paying right now on the rent. She's paying $260 in, I'm going to move that over, in HST. Now, she's paying you, that becomes an input tax credit, correct?
Mhm.
But she's collecting $105.95 from each of her 3 tenants, right? So that's a total of, what's this here?
She's making $50 a month.
Yeah, you get it.
Yep.
It's a profit center, right? So she's collecting the $317.85. She's paying the $260. It means she has to remit to the government the difference. So she has to send the government this amount, what she's collecting, less the ITC. So she has to, so she's sending the government 50. So she's making more than that. She's making the entire 260.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Do you understand that?
Yep.
So that goes to the government of Canada. She keeps 260. That's a lot of money. So HST, most people don't understand this, is a profit center. It should be a profit center for Blair Capital too.
Mhm.
Okay, well, you already know that, but she doesn't. So if she does this, okay, what I'm going to suggest is that you would charge her. Sorry, let me go back a sec. I'm going to say you're going to charge her, Candace, because she's Aaron's wife, a 15% percentage rent. Did I spell it right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's say you do that. So what you're going to end up with is equal to this plus 15% of
815.
no, because it's net of HST in your case.
Okay.
Times this times 3. All right. So you're gonna make a little bit more money, and of course, if it wasn't Candace, that would probably be 25%. But for Candace, you're going to add a little extra 300. But if she does this, what is her rent going to be? Let's figure out what her rent is now. Okay. So her rent is, she's paying $2,000 right now. So her rent is right now she's paying $2,000. Okay. But she's collecting from the 3 offices, right? Equals this number times, sorry, this number. You'll see why these spreadsheets are important and to do it right. And this is all part of the property management stuff that I want you to learn. Okay, so times 3. Okay, her rent becomes a negative number if she follows my formula. Equals, so she's actually paying $2,000 to you, minus she's collecting this. So she's now got a negative rent, but she's also paying you $300 of percentage rent. So her rent would be basically, should be making $100.
Yeah.
But she's basically now living for free or renting for free.
Yep.
All right. So her actual, I'm just gonna write the number here. It's easier for me. 308. So her effective rent would be the sum of these 2 numbers. So she would be basically paying you a negative $137 a month.
Yeah, and we did this kind of setup on purpose because we wanted to give the ladies a leg up with their businesses and give them a chance to effectively have.
No, I understand that, but I suspect that all of these leases are month to month, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So what you don't do is you don't go in there tomorrow and say, guess what? We're raising your rent from $500 to $815. You don't. What happens is you would talk to Candace obviously first, but I would let her manage those mini offices. Why would you do it?
Yep.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get Blair Capital to do less work, make more money.
Yep.
So what you would do is you would say, Candace, this is the direction we're heading in. If one of these offices become vacant, your next one is going to be like this. Okay. And over the next 2 years, you're going to transit, if these guys are are staying, which is fine, they can stay. So you should tell them, look, right now, it's $500 a month. I'm not even charging you HST, even though I should, because it's commercial. But next year, we're going to raise it a little bit, and you're going to pay HST. And the year after that, we're going to raise it a little bit, because we got to get here. Because you cannot, I am renting 200 square foot workshops for $600 a month. Okay. 200 square foot workshops in a barn for $600 a month.
Yeah.
And I could ask 800 and they probably would pay.
Yeah.
So you have a fantastic building that you guys have spent a lot of money on, and you're paying high interest. And you can't get a mini office anywhere in the city now for less than $800.
Yeah.
You can't get a room, a room in somebody's house for less than $800 now. You know that. Okay. All right. Enough of that. All right. So that's what we're doing here. And the yoga studio, that's fine. Again, if it weren't for the fact that it's run by your beautiful wife, there would be a percentage rent here too.
Well, we have the area I'm working in now is going to be an office for AIM and Blair Capital. So we will be paying rent to Alex as a subleaser.
Well, you know what I'm getting at, all right? So I'm just trying to work through this so that it just opens your mind to, because if you do all of this stuff, which I'm doing in properties that I own, it changes the equation, but I'm not going to make any changes here. So we've dealt with the many offices already. Now, is there room for a cafe?
Yes. Yep. We would either have to do an addition or work out something on the front driveway or front patio. But yes, it is definitely possible. All
right. So at some point, and the other thing is, Blair Capital, and you just said you'll do it. You will pay a rent, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to pay rent. You should pay, even if you're paying it to yourself, so to speak. And we'll put a yes in here, and here we'll say included in. Oh shoot! I always get that wrong.
But we could also put mini offices in the backyard. Just use the SLC homes, and we could put 4 or 5 offices, more offices back there.
It included in basement, correct?
Yep.
All right. So and I love that idea. Many offices in back. That's brilliant. SLC. That would be year round though, right?
Yep.
I think that's a great idea. How many would you put in the backyard?
Depends on the layout of the wedding venue, but I would think we could probably get about 3.
Yeah, that's fine. 3, and how big would they be?
We'd probably, to avoid building permits, we'd probably want to keep them 108 square feet.
Okay. Okay, and for these, you're going to charge $435. And you're going to have a facilities charge here of, $90 for different services that you'll provide to them, because you'll provide Wi-Fi. And when they want to go to the bathroom, they just come in the building, right?
Yep.
So you'd get, add that. So you'd get about, so this would be the cheapest office you could get anywhere per month. That's a really good idea. So that would add a little bit more income. I love that idea. So you get a little bit more income here. What would it cost to put a small living company year-round, nice building in the back of this thing? What's your cost to build it, put it in place on some kind of, you put some gravel down, you put some patio stones down there, you plunk it in there, hook it up to electrical.
Probably about 25,000.
Okay, so let's say it's 30 grand. Per SLC. So that's times 3. So you spend 90,000 on that. And your net operating income, or so your gross income is this times 12. And your net operating income is equal to this times 0.66. I'm assuming 34% goes out the window. Okay, that didn't work. Equals this times 0.66. That looks okay. Yeah, so your cap rate on that is equal to this divided by that. So that's not a bad return, 13%. That's
Yeah.
good. That's pretty good. All right, cap rate. So it's worth doing. Now, what about this wedding venue? Could you put a couple of tree houses in there?
We
Or
could
some
do
glamping
one.
tents?
We could do one tree house and probably 3 yurts, and then a central deck.
One tree house. Would you put jukes in there?
Probably not. No, that's not really their model.
Yeah, I think that's right. So one tree house and 3 yurts, and then you've got the potential to do some weddings there. That's fantastic. And this again is only 113 days, right? We talked about that. It's just warm weather months.
Yeah. Well, actually, the jupes are or the yurts on the hill are open year round. We're putting wood stoves in them.
Wow, that's great. But I'm going to assume for this purpose, just 113 days of summer, because that's it for Ottawa and Rockland. All right.
Yeah.
So what could you rent the tree house for? I mean, those guys in Whispering Springs get like 450 to 550 bucks.
Yeah, I think safe assumption for the yurts and treehouse. Let's 200 a night.
So for the tree house, I'm going to go 300, and for the yurt, I'm going to go 200. All right.
Okay.
And what kind of occupancy can you get for the 113 days?
50%. Would hope for 75, but 50% conservatively.
Yeah, I'll go with 65. All right. So let's see what we get. We get equals 1 times 300 times 113 days times 65%. That's for the tree house. And then we have to add 3 yurts times 113 days times 200 times 65%. And wow. And I'm going to multiply all of that by 0.66, right? Just to so we get the net operating income.
And that's not even including a wedding venue fee.
No, it's just glamping, and you have. I think this is really cool. All right, now we have to add some more columns up here. Sorry it's taking so long, but it's worth doing.
Yeah, no, this is great.
All right, so the tree house, that's going to be expensive. How much are you going to spend on a tree house?
40K, 30K.
All right, 50. And the yurts, you already know that.
Yeah, they're 13K each. So
with the deck and everything?
No. Yeah, 20K each total, so 60K.
Okay, so that's equal to 20,000 times 3. I think we said, yeah. Oh, yeah, 3 years. Yeah. Okay. I gotta put another sheet in here. Okay, and then we have the SLCs in the backyard. We already know that's going to be about 90 grand. I think I said, yeah. All right, so our cost now with all of this additional stuff is like that. And I'm going to put one more line in here, which is structural improvements to the patio.
Yeah, it's a big patio. That could almost be the cafe up here.
Yeah, oh, well, sure, you wouldn't do it unless you had the cafe going, but so structural improvements to make it safe, because I think you're going to have to do that. I just do. What do you think? We're going to put some steel beams in, and so probably 65,000 bucks, because it's structural. You need an engineer to certify it. All right. I mean, we're just guessing.
Yep.
All right. So our gross income now is what do we have here? Oh, this is ridiculous. Okay, I'm going to change that. So our gross income is this plus, not gross income, our net income plus this plus this plus this. I screwed up.
The wedding venue.
Yeah,
That's for the
I
year.
screwed up. So I just have to make sure I divide this by 12.
Yeah.
No, not because that's not right. Oh, yeah, it is. Even though it's all summertime revenues, we're just averaging it out.
Yeah.
All right, so that's okay. So that's better. So our gross income, but so this is not our gross because these are net numbers, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think they are anyway.
Triple net.
Yeah, so we're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna get rid of that because I don't need that. We're gonna go, oh shit. Equals
Undo.
this plus this plus this plus that, right? Per month, per year. And let's just make sure this is done properly. Yeah, it looks right. All right.
There should be some expense ratio, but probably not 33%.
Oh, no, but we've kind of taken it out already. And I'll just raise the cap rate a little bit. So you can see what we're trying to do here. You end up with a property that's cost you 1.3 or 1.4 million, and it's valued at 2.7. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that's right. That's what you're trying to do.
Well, we just got Colliers to appraise it with just the basement, commercial, and the yoga leases,
Yeah.
and it's valued at 1.4.
Wow, what a home run. So I'll just say current. Who did the appraisal?
Colliers.
That's excellent.
So yeah, essentially doubled the value from what we bought it at.
Oh my God, I'm so excited about this. So what was the number again?
1.4.
Wow, that's great, man. All right. So, but I think with a little bit more effort, this building is just going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Like
I love it.
I loved it the moment I spent there some time there. I'll just make this a little smaller. All right. So Brad,
You can send me this.
I will send you this. I'll do it right now. I'll stop the share for a sec and I'll send it to you. So we've talked about this before. I'll just call it yoga, okay? That'll be subject heading so you'll know what it is. I better check that I got the right one here. Hang on. There's a few versions of this already. Like versioning is really important, but then again, sometimes you get so many versions you have no idea, right? I'm just going to change that. So this is August the 4th. I just redated it, that's all. Okay. So I think the what I was going to say is one of the issues that is, I think, slowing Blair Capital down right now is there's only one Brad and there's only one Aaron.
Yep.
And how's your cousin doing?
He's doing good. He's only part-time. So we're at this weird moment in Blair Capital where we need someone full-time. We just can't really afford it in the next 6 months. So we're having discussions around, extending Kevin until January part-time and then hiring him full-time once we have a couple other projects online. The Gigaplex one is, 50 to 60% done. So that'll be done in a couple months. And then we'll get a nice refi from that. We'll get some management fees from that. And then we're starting on the other 6 plexes here in Rockland as well. So things are working out well with Kevin. And I think he has what it takes to be sort of like that portfolio manager that Blair Capital can rely on. We also have a part-time employee, Dan. She lives in the East End as well. And she does all of our like tenant communications and leasings, and she calls contractors, but they're both part-time at the moment.
Yeah, I get that. So the one thing that I think would help you was, what was the lady's name? Who does
Dan.
Who?
Dan.
Oh, that's so they're both guys, Kevin and Dan.
Dan's a girl, Danielle. We call her Dan.
Oh, okay. Well, very nice. So Danielle and
Kevin.
One of the bottlenecks is you. Like I'm doing all of this work today, and I would like you to, if you feel comfortable, I'll put this on YouTube unlisted. You can share it with these people. You can share it with Aaron. You can share it with Candace if you feel comfortable, and your beautiful wife, Alex. But just it's really important that your organization becomes a learning organization, because it would take you far too long for me to teach you stuff like this and then you to teach everybody else. If we could short circuit that, the coaching would be more valuable.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said rings true in that I do know we need to bring on more professional investors to scale Blair Capital quicker. I just don't, I know the time that takes and the relationships I'd have to build, and what I'm doing with all the acquisition side, zoning and the planning, I don't have time for that. But bringing on or partnering with someone who can raise that capital or have those relationships appeals to me. But I'm happy to take that role on myself. It's kind of the role I've taken on anyway. But like I said, it's just our investors right now are just friends and family, so it's an easy thing. It's not dealing with private equity or.
One of the things that I'm going to ask you to do, again, only if you want to, I'm just here as your friend and coach, is I think you should come up with a structure where you could raise, say, $1.5 million at sort of minimum of $50,000 per position, right?
Okay.
And we'll just do some more capital raising, 50,000 at a time. So you need 30 people to raise $1.5 million. And you've got some really interesting projects. You've got the Gigaplex project. You got the yoga studio. I'm not saying you should include those, but you might. You've got Hammond Hill, whatever. I think if you look at Avenue 31, that's how Michelle and Ryan and the team, that's what they started with. They didn't just start with, 120 million or 150 million, or it might even be 300 or 400 million. They started with friends and family and acquaintances, and they did the webinar stuff and all the rest of that. And they raised a few $1 million. So they had a little bit of seed capital. And then they did the lease with the NCC. Once Michelle had that lease, he bolted to Toronto. I said, okay, guys, I got 100 acres of free land here for industrial, and the market for industrial is off the charts. He did a few presentations in TL, and he came back with it's called Red Circle. A number of these guys said, yeah, we're in, count on us for 75 million, and we got 3 buddies who'll do 75 million each, or whatever it was, numbers like that.
Wow.
But just to ease the pressure on you, I listen, I'm just suggesting it. Why don't you think, what would I put into a package? Maybe I'll grab Hammond Hill and I'll grab the Gigaplex. You don't have to, but you could grab that, and you grab that fabulous yoga studio if everybody agrees. You put it in a package and raise $1.5 million at $50,000 or $100,000 per investment.
Okay, I will work on that for our next meeting.
I think we should. And then, as your coach, maybe I can't do anything else. You've heard me say this before, but I can sure talk. And let's do a few webinars. Probably take 3 or 4 webinars, and we could probably raise $1.5 million for you.
Okay, I like it.
Just and again, my advice is that it's part equity and part debt. And it might be 50-50. So you might say, listen, if you've got, say, $50,000 you want to invest, 25,000 of it will be debt, 25,000 of it will be equity. The $25,000 gets you, 1% of this business, and the other 25,000 will give you 6% or 8% on your money for 3 years or 4 years. It's capitalized. We'll pay it out at the end.
Yeah, I wonder if put together a package for a portfolio of maybe like 5-6 plexes or something like that.
God. Listen, I mean, if you how many of these 6 plexes are you building in Rockland?
4 for now with our current pipeline, but we want another 20.
Yeah, but I mean, people you and I have a great story to tell about the augmented tenancy, right?
Yeah.
All right, so think about doing that, okay? And the goal would be 1.5 million, and we do 1 webinar, and we'd say 50K per position minimum, right? 25K is going to be equity, 25K is debt, so half your money comes back to you. I think the term on that would be 3 or 4 years, I'm not sure, and be either 6 or 8%, and it would be capitalized. You remember what capitalized means, right? It means
No.
the interest is paid at the end,
Got it. Yes.
just so it doesn't bog you down on the cash flow.
Got it. Okay. I'll put something together and then maybe our next
And
meeting we
we'll
can focus
schedule
on
a
that.
webinar for September. And what you do between you and Aaron and the rest of your group, you put out the word, listen, hey, we've got these really cool sixplexes. There's 4 of them. They're probably worth 2 million each. I can't remember now. So we got $8 million worth of real estate. It's an opportunity to participate here. If you got 50 grand, half of it would be debt, half, come and join the webinar, and I'll do the presentation if you want.
Okay. All right. Well, we can figure out the mechanics of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll do it together, but you have to do the first draft of the slide deck, and I'll do the second draft.
Sounds good. I like it.
All right, and we'll raise $1.5 million, and that'll prove very useful. I love the 4 sixplexes. I think that's perfect. And
Yeah, I'll have to run the numbers to see what 1.5 gets us in terms of soft costs, but yeah, something like that.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could vary the debt, you could vary the equity, so it makes sense for you. But it'll take some of the pressure off you guys. All right, so that's that on that. Okay, let's talk about the sixplexes now. The 1201. Okay.
Yes, sounds good. And sorry, I only have another 10 minutes.
Oh shoot! You don't give me enough time.
We can always do it next meeting too.
It's okay. So 1201 Laurier is here. This is the spreadsheet you gave me. So I'm not really sure if I think I changed some of the stuff here. I'd have to go through it again. But one of the things I was concerned about was you've been running some Kijiji ads. We did an ad on Kijiji, remember?
Yes.
And you said it didn't get much play, right? I'm just trying to find it. I have it somewhere. Tell me about that.
I'm getting a few questions about it, but I'm getting the feeling that the price might be too high.
Okay, I'm just trying to see where the ad is. Well, tell me about why is the price too high?
Right now, I have it at 2,300 for the Gigaplex units.
Yep. Now here it is.
That's sort of the cutoff. People ask a bunch of questions, they seem excited, and then they hear the price, and I don't hear back from them.
Okay. How to rent a 2-bedroom Rockland apartment and make a profit at the same time? So did you use some of the lingo that we developed?
Yes.
And let's go back to the spreadsheet now. So you were talking about $2,200, correct?
Yes. Well, right now I listed at 2,300.
Mm-hmm. But
I can share the Kijiji ad link here in the chat.
Yeah, please do. And I'm just going to go see if I can find. Where was it? I don't know. I want to go back and see if I can find the design.
If you go to the Kijiji ad, the layouts in the Kijiji ad.
I think I got it here. Yeah, here it is. I think. Yeah, I love this. These units are fantastic. All right, I'll stop sharing here and I'll move over to the other side. Thank you. So this is the design, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we might be saying it wrong in the ad. Is this the ground floor here?
Yes.
Or is that the second?
This is the second floor.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. So on the second floor, you've got this nice deck, and you come in here.
Yep.
And then this is the 1-bedroom apartment here, correct? And then
Yep.
this is the walk-off suite, which has its own entrance here, correct?
Yep.
Does it have a entrance to the outside? No. This is the entrance, main entrance here, right?
Right.
You come up the stairs, you come in this door, there's your lock-off suite, and then there's, so this, is this a sliding door here?
Yes.
Does that lock?
Yes.
So so you could have a 1-bedroom unit here and a lock-off suite here, right? With its own micro kitchen and all that cool stuff.
Yep.
So what would you, I'm just asking, what would you rent the 1-bedroom for?
That'd probably be about 1,500.
I think most of my 1-bedrooms are 16 to 1,800.
Yeah, the Rockland market's a bit lower, but yeah, around that.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this. I'll let you go in 5 minutes, but we're going to go back to the spreadsheet here. Oops. So the spreadsheet here. So what if we were to rent the each one of these for $1,600? Okay, I think that's what we're talking about here. Oops. And this one is 1,600, right? And then we have the lock-off suite. What would you rent that for separately if you were renting it?
$1,000.
Well, Ken and Natalie get 1,200 for theirs. So let's say 1,100, okay?
Okay.
All right, so just repeat that here. Perfect. All right, so your gross operating income now is equal to, I'm going to just go equal to this plus this plus this. Sorry about doing it this stupid way, but this.
All right.
This plus this plus that plus that plus that. Now your cap rate's quite a bit higher. We're going to change this to 5.5% because cap rates are moving up, and you know that. In other words, valuations are coming down. It still comes out around $2 million. So what if you were to advertise it as we've got 1-bedroom units for rent for 1,600, and we've got micro suites rent for 1,100? I think you'd get a lot of action for that.
Yeah, we probably would. It's just we're not allowed to rent. Like, we're only allowed the 6 units, and there's not really that much parking either. So I'm worried about having, so that would add 4 additional tenants. So that'd be 10 tenants instead of 6 tenants on the property.
I call it a 6-plex, 10-plex. I do.
Yeah, I mean, if parking wasn't provided for those smaller micro suite units, it could work.
So in Belleville, I found probably 80% of my tenants want a parking space. But is there any parking in the area? Can they park on the street? Is there a place to park?
There's street parking, but in the winter it's dicey with the snow clearing.
Are there any people around in the neighborhood? I'm just asking that would have extra spaces they could rent?
We'd have to ask, but it's all single family home lots around there.
Yeah, I get that. But I mean, listen, what I'm getting at is, you know, like if the augmented tenancy is something that somebody wants to do, then just break them up. That's kind of what I would do.
Okay. And those micro suites too could be rented out as little offices.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine too. I mean, you know, you're not really supposed to rent them out for third-party offices, right?
It would have to go through the tenant.
Well, that's in theory.
Yeah.
You know, so look, one of my clients has, I don't know, he has 60, 70, 80 doors in Vanier, and he likes the mini storage business. He has those little mini storage units in the back of all of them, and you're really supposed to only lease it to the tenants in the building, but he's got lots of them, you know, not half of them, but about 1/3 of them rented to people in the area who just need extra storage. And if his tenants don't need it and he's got one vacant, he'll rent it to you know, Joe down the street. He's not supposed to, but he does it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think I would experiment You know, just because people say, listen, I don't need a car, like you'll find some older people. Can you walk from here to a store?
You can, it's a little bit far, but you can.
All right.
Be about a 10, 15 minute walk.
Okay. I'm just gonna check out now your Kijiji ad. I guess I'm not. I just, oh, okay. I have to sort out this. All right. Anything else before we break?
Nope, no, that's great. I'm gonna share this recording around, and if you have any feedback on the Kijiji ad after the fact, let me know.
I will do that. I just want to stop sharing now for a moment. Okay, I got to terminate the recording and then we'll sign off in a second here.